it's pretty obvious that your Lilith placements are showing through right now, and they're hitting you pretty hard for some reason. So Lilith in Virgo is all about perfection. But you have your Lilith in the 5th house. And Lilith in 5th house is basically guilt about having fun and also resting. So this is something that you gotta look into, because the more that you push yourself without really taking your physical condition into account, you do realize that whatever you're going to be working on is going to be much less effective, right? So you're basically working against yourself. Now look, when you are in a place where you want to improve yourself, which is all fine, that's great. Also Lilith and Virgo, I totally understand that. But, however, if you don't start addressing some of your traumas, especially childhood traumas, no matter how much you want to improve, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all of that, everything is connected. If you don't start healing yourself from the past and from the inside, from your heart, it is ultimately going to affect how far you can actually go and how much you can achieve. Because when you heal yourself, when you work on self-love, this is important. When you work on self-love, because you understand what you are able to do and how to push yourself in a healthy way, your efforts will actually be much more fruitful. However, when you are coming from a place where you are very evidently very stressed, I worry about your mental health. I sometimes get the vibe that you're not exactly in the best place right now. And that, you know, you're generally not having your energy where it needs to be in order to aim high or higher than what you actually are at the moment. All of this comes back to needing to heal yourself. And I really wish that you would find a way to work on this, because, buddy, you need it so bad.
I shall not stay weak. I shall grow stronger.
Oh, Chris. Placement, and I think this is still an issue. Today we're going to be focusing on 2 of his Neptune placements, which is his Neptune square his Moon and Neptune trine his Mercury. Not gonna lie, I think this is usually the placement where his chart readings get a really bad rap on Tumblr, especially. That's not something I want to go into. They tend to go into like mother-son dynamics, and I want to avoid that because that is a personal topic. We ain't about that. I mean, technically what I'm going into is also personal, but this is more to do with him and not other people in his life. It's not good to assume what his relationships are with people. So the whole thing about his Neptune square his Moon, the reason why I want to bring this up is because we know that he's notorious for not expressing his emotions, whereas this placement makes it really critical for him to actually express what he's feeling and to actually let those emotions out. Otherwise, it can fester into like physical illnesses and whatnot. I mean, it's not just physically that it will manifest, but like, you know, it can also be emotional and mental. Like it can manifest into depression, anxiety, paranoia, and all that sort of stuff, which we don't want. And considering this man already has to deal with so many health issues, especially because it's got a stellium in the 6th house, this is something that he also should be paying attention to so that he can lessen that burden on himself. So what does this mean for Chan? It means that he needs to open up to people around him, whether it is skiz, whether it is people who he considers to be close friends, family, or even in relationships. This is especially critical when he is going through something difficult. It's not good to hold these emotions in, because with his particular placements and because of that 6th house stellium in particular, it is going to affect him so much more than people typically would when they keep emotions bottled in. However, it's not all bad. He actually has done one of the positive sides of this aspect where, for example, when he used to do Chan's room, he has shown his concern to stays and shown compassion, shared his thoughts on certain subjects, and that allows him to be more appreciated, and in turn that also, you know, in terms of the fandom, creates this energy of like a mutual bond. And that is actually how he's going to be most appreciated, not just by the fandom, but in relationships in his personal life, is when he shares things with people. Now, the other thing about this is that it doesn't necessarily have to be like just a verbal way of expressing his emotions, because he also has Neptune trine Mercury, which shows that he can actually express things in also non-verbal ways. Ideally, his form of communication is more effective when he's softer, very caring, empathetic, non-threatening, which is actually how we know him to be. But also, when I say that he can communicate in non-verbal ways, this also depends on the kind of relationships that he has with people. So if he has been able to, you know, get to know people very closely, where they are able to pick up on his emotional cues just from like maybe the way that he looks at something, could be the way that he just speaks, the way that he carries himself, this is a good way for him to like start showing and expressing how he feels without directly saying, hey, like, look, I feel really shit right now. The other thing about this is that he's got his Neptune in Capricorn, so this has a tendency to where he does actually want to bottle things up, because Neptune is a planet about dreams and like illusions and spirituality, whereas Capricorn is very grounded. It's all about hard work, but it's also about keeping things together. So mixing those two as a placement, it's like as if it is going to be a challenging way for him to open up, but it's not impossible. But he also has his moon in Libra, so there is also this sort of sense of like emotionally it needs to appear like he's okay even when he's not. Long story short, Chris needs to express when he is actually not okay and when he is having issues to the people around him, in order not to just like create those closer social relationships, but actually for his health, his physical health, his mental health, and his emotional health. Without doing this, he's actually putting himself into a detriment in terms of those aspects of his life. And so if he wants to be healthy, then he needs to get this under control. Today I'm going to be in a little bit of a lecture mode because I decided to look at a particular placement and I think this is still an issue. Today we're going to be Bang Chan's chart. I feel like we're always talking about his triple Libra energy, and there's a really good reason for that, and that's because the more Libran energy he has in his chart, or basically the more energy you have in your chart of one sign, it really shows that you are really needing to learn aspects of that sign. Now, just from personal observation, I feel like Bang Chan has actually evolved a lot in the past 12 months. I know people are probably going to hate on me for saying this, but one of the biggest reasons why he has been able to evolve his Libra energy is the fact that he actually stopped doing Chinese room. What could ever I mean by saying this? Oh my god, the controversy. But in all seriousness, under-evolved Libran energy is very codependent and it seeks validation from others. It's also a very people-pleasing energy. So if we have a look at the way that he interacted with stays and the relationship that he had with stays while he was doing Chinese room, there was a lot of people-pleasing in the sense of he was trying to keep stays really happy, or at least get their approval, whether he realizes it or not. But he was relying on the fandom for his own self-validation. Now, this could also be present in his private life with the codependent energy and the people-pleasing energy. He may not be someone who says no easily to people, especially his company, and if he had previous relationships, it is very likely that he was very dependent on that partner. But from my observations, that's not all. There's actually a couple of other things where he still had some unevolved Libran energy. One of them is being indecisive, and the fact that he has triple Libra energy means he is probably super fucking indecisive on his own. Another one, which may be more difficult for him because he also has a 6th house stellium, which is all about fitness and health. But under-evolved Libran energy tends to be a little bit superficial, and in his case, it's about his own image. It is absolutely possible to be fit and healthy, but not so obsessed with the way one looks, and so that is something that he still needs to work through. Enough with the roasting. Let's actually talk about some of the really good qualities and evolved qualities that he has as a Libran. And so one that he is most well known for, in my opinion, is his compassion. Evolved Libran energy can be very compassionate, it is very helpful, and also very social, which really ties in with the whole social butterfly thing for him. But he's also a Gemini rising, and Gemini risings are also naturally social butterflies. Evolved Libran energy is also very, very loyal. So unless you really fuck up somehow, Librans will always be loyal. Evolved Libras also have a very even temper, so they're slower to anger and are able to keep their cool a lot more. This energy is also really, really good with children. So once they have evolved energy in this sign, kids will actually be naturally drawn to them. Now, he has one sort of like getting their kind of evolved energy that I have observed, and that is to do with his work and play kind of balance. Now, I do think he is doing better with it, especially the fact that he did at least go on holiday with friends around his birthday. But with Libran evolved energy, it is really important for them to have a balance of both. And in this case, it's more likely that Librans will work really hard, like they will have workaholic energy. So it's best to have a balance of do everything that they need to do, put all of their like blood, sweat and tears into a project or the task at hand, but to also take equivalent time off to play and relax to restore their energy so that they can start that cycle once again. But if you're someone who's into astrology, I really encourage you to have a look at.
I just realised I've not talked about Bane Chan enough, and I know majority of you are all here for Chan videos, so if Chris was your possessive boyfriend, let's go. What makes Chris a possessive boyfriend? And I would definitely argue that he is the most possessive member of Stray Kids. I mean, to be fair, nearly every member of Stray Kids is possessive, but Bane Chan is definitely up there for one of the most possessive ones. And that's because of his Libra moon. So Libra moons feel most comforted when they're constantly around people that supports their well-being. The downside of being a Libra moon is that you find it extremely difficult to be on your own because you constantly need that validation, and when unbalanced, it can cause that person to be very codependent and almost suffocating to their partners because they constantly need that validation that they're needed, that they're loved, that they have purpose in another one's life. And combined with Chan's Scorpio Venus, this makes him a very needy, clingy, and possessive partner. And combined with his dominant tendencies, I'm just going to be forward in saying it, like, Chan is a needy and clingy dom, which I don't know if other people think this, but if you have a clingy and needy dominant partner, I think that's the most sexiest shit ever. It's like hand holding. It's like way better than what people think it is. Now, on a positive level, Chan is the type that would absolutely worship you as a partner, like you would be his entire life. On a toxic level, it could make him incredibly manipulative. And by that, I mean because, like I said, Chan has a caregiver complex, he needs to feel like he's constantly needed. He could deliberately start arguments to kind of put you in your place and show that he's the dominant one in the relationship, but also to get that reaction out of you that you do need him and that he is valuable in your life. Alright, let's do bedroom, because I know what you're all here for. Don't get me wrong, I love doing like the bedroom side of these TikToks, but I always have to figure out like how to say what I want without getting banned. And what do men with caregiver complexes like to be called in the bedroom? I think you can figure that out. I just realized whenever I just think of Bane Chan, I just think of like grunge, Pinterest, Tumblr. This is just my time of me gloating and being proud of myself because I was fucking right when I said he's into the grunge Tumblr aesthetic. Oh my god, it's giving such Tumblr grunge energy. Oh my god. I'm so proud of myself because I know him so well without even knowing him. I don't know whether to be thoroughly impressed or disappointed. Well, I can imagine this coming up like grunge boyfriend aesthetic on Pinterest. I was there wondering who took these until I saw comments, and I'm just here thinking maybe he does have a partner, until someone said, nah man, it was probably his manager. See people, I know the fuck what I'm talking about with these videos. Which means, you know what this means, right? That all my theories and satire about Bane Chan being a fuckboy are probably a lot more true than what I'm saying. I guarantee you in a few weeks or months, he probably gonna have an Instagram caption that says life's about the journey. Oh, such fuckboy Libra material.